Welcome, everybody. Back over here with CrossoverSportsTalk and Events. I'm your host and founder, Fazil Irshad. Hope you guys are all doing today. Hope you all had a great weekend and, heading into the summer season in June so far. I hope you guys are all doing great. Got a few things to talk about over this past weekend and over these past few days that what has gone on so far, including in the NBA world and in the NFL news right now. In the NBA, currently, right now, we have today, which was a crazy game. What a win from the Indiana Pacers today, taking a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Um, the final score was here 116 to 107 with Benedict Mathurin leading the way, and as well as the Pacers bench. They were very, very, very stout today. It was pretty crazy to see how they were all just playing together as a team today. They're just full on collective effort, and TJ McConnell as well being all over the field, stealing a lot of passes on the inbound. Him just being a pest out there, leading the way, including with Pascal Siakam. He had 21 points, man. He was just getting in there over Chet. And then, Tyrese Halliburton leading the way once again, having a bounce back game from his performance from game 2 after the Thunder blew him out. He had 22 points and 11 assists, man. Shout out to him. And including Benedict Mathurin, he had 27 points from 9 to 12 shooting. Man, he was really, really big off the bench in 22 minutes. And then including Obi Toppin had a solid 8 points in 28 minutes. They were getting after people are really, I think what they're doing is underestimating the Pacers defense. Everyone was coming in talking about Oklahoma City's defense and how they just communicate really well, and they're just constantly talking, with their on-ball defenders, and everyone just getting after them, including in the half court, and not only when they're just past half court, they're just connecting and they're just getting everyone together, always attacking those loose balls and also getting in front of passes or just blocking shots and doing that. The Pacers were showing a lot of fight and hard fought today on defense. And that's what I think probably was a big reason why they won. Also, just how well rounded they are offensively, like we've already have spoken in previous podcasts of mine. But they really, especially their first home game in the finals after 25 years when they faced the Lakers back 25 years ago, and they lost in that 6 games, but now they take a lead in the series 2-1 in their first home finals game in a while. We saw lots of former Pacer greats out there, including Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller. You saw courtside, Dale Davis of the worlds, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was, Halliburton's dad, showing some support there as well. It was lots of Pacer greats out there. It was Ron Artest, meta world peace, as we should say, Steven Jackson, that in all the smoke podcast with Matt Barnes, and Al Harrington. Forgot to mention Al Harrington, also played for the Warriors, played for the Indiana Pacers when they had that squad with Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, and Reggie Miller, Ron Artest, before when he was Ron Artest in his name. They were such a very good team back in the day when they used to battle out with Detroit Pistons. Well, going back to the NBA Finals of especially Game 3 of the Pacers taking a 2-1 lead, this could be very interesting. This could for surely, like I originally had Oklahoma City Thunder winning this in about 6 games, but the Pacers are up 2-1 now. This could change. This can possibly go 7, or the Pacers can finish them out if they take Game 4. I think Game 4 is very, very vital for the Oklahoma City Thunder in order to win. They were in this circumstance about 2 rounds ago in the semifinal round against the Denver Nuggets, where they lost a crazy Game 1 on a game winner by Aaron Gordon. They came back and they blew them out in Game 2. They lost Game 3 in Denver, and then they won a hard-fought Game 4, which Shea led the way. his infamous smile leaving the court after losing game 3. I do kind of expect another effort of Shea. He did have about let's see. Did have about like 24 points today, so I do expect him to be a little bit more aggressive in game 4, to lead the Oklahoma City Thunder. I do think the Pacers will bring it. They're going to try to take a commanding 3-1 lead and try to end this quick if they can. I know they're very well coached with Rick Carlisle and that squad leading the way. They're very well rounded, very well coached, very well disciplined. Now they've proven it left and right from the first round of this playoffs that they're no joke, including after beating the Cavaliers in 5 games and then eliminating the Knicks, and then now here what they're doing to the 68-14 one-seeded Thunder, an historically great defense, and just with the stud defenders and stud players that they have with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, Luke Dort, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe of the world, Alex Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein. Shea did have 24 today on 9 of 20 shooting, and Jalen Williams had about 26 points today with in 36 minutes, shot about 50% from the field. And Chet had a 20 and 10 game, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 6 out of 15 shooting. He did start off the game pretty quick. I think he had about like 12 points in the first quarter, and then they did kind of like Miles Turner and that Pacers defense kind of tightened down in that second half on him, I think, a little bit more. And they kind of tightened down and, they took control of that game, so credit to them. And then also, I just wanted a sponsor followed to you by Geancarlo and Zeena Carmona. They're licensed financial professionals helping individuals and families build generational wealth, eliminate debt, and protect their future. Once again, you could reach Zeena at Zeena Yassine 063@gmail.com or phone number 510-461-2496. Once again, that's 510-461-2496. And Geancarlo at geancarlowf@gmail.com. His phone number is 858-405-6743. Once again, that's 858-405-6743. Please reach out to them for any financial advice or any financial help that you need. They will be able to ask any of your questions and help you, build generational wealth down the line with your families. Shout out to them. And then once again, now going back to the NBA Finals, yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting, I think, the swing game in Game 4, whether we're going to see a series get tied at 2 games or we're going to see the Pacers take a commanding 3-1 lead and possibly, can end it in 5 hitting in Oklahoma City or end it back at home in Game 6. Or, if we could see a comeback, who knows? It can go either way. And OKC gaining back momentum 2-2, gaining back home court advantage and going back to Oklahoma City. That should be a very vital game for them. I think they're going to be playing pretty desperate on Friday. So we shall see. We shall see. And then in other news, moving forward to the NFL, and some news over there, the Raiders did have a signing today, the Las Vegas Raiders, with Jermaine Pratt, the stud linebacker from the Cincinnati Bengals, on a 1-year deal. And then I also wanted to mention, we did mention Aaron Rodgers heading back to, going to Pittsburgh and joining that culture of the Steel Curtain Steelers with Mike Tomlin and them over there. So that should be, he's going to have DK Metcalf to throw to, and that squad over there in Pittsburgh, which, I think they've been lacking a quarterback, I would say, for the past few seasons since Ben Roethlisberger, even though, they did have Russell Wilson and Justin Fields did play some pretty good ball for them last year, making the playoffs and eventually getting bounced out in the first round against the Baltimore Ravens. So we should see. The NFL is going to be pretty interesting this season. We got Russell Wilson in New York now, and they have a big, deep quarterback room with Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston, including there's also, lots of new starters we're going to see with Cam Ward in Tennessee. We're going to see Michael Penix Jr. take the folds of the Atlanta Falcons, Sam Darnold in Seattle. it's going to be pretty interesting. Everyone getting their extensions, and then Geno Smith in Las Vegas as well. It should be pretty turning heads. I did see also with the Arizona Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. Man, he looks bulked up. He looked pretty amped up, like in this press conference that I saw, down up in OTAs and in this Arizona Cardinals minicamp. So the Cardinals, with Kyler Murray out there and Jonathan Gannon and drafting Walter Nolan and Will Johnson in the second round, they're building their team slowly, which they're going to be pretty a force to be reckoned with in the NFC West. All right, this sponsor also brought to you by Alfredo Melendez, real estate advisor, KOLLAB Real Estate. Alfredo at collaborate.com. Once again, that's 408 568 8288. 408 568 8288. You can reach out to him and, for your necessary Bay Area needs, he covers the Bay Area. If you're looking for any homes, please reach out to him as well. All right, and also moving forward, speaking with the NFL, there's going to be people. I think are a lot of people right now. They're currently underway mini camp right now, and mini camp has been going its way along right now. I did see some word with Deebo Samuel in Washington. Him and Jaden Daniels, leading the way there with Terry McLaurin. He's having some contract issues. There was a rumor going out there. I did hear with possibly him swapping for Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco, he's coming off a major ACL and MCL injury. There was some rumors about him possibly getting traded, but he's back out there. I see him with the team. Him trying to get out there, they're get back with the team, get back, get it back into running folds, as he currently rehabs. There was rumors of him swapping with Terry McLaurin. He would obviously be reunited with Deebo Samuel in Brandon Ayuk and Adam Peters up in Washington. So that should be a very interesting get. We shall see what goes on over there. I would also say that's going to be, people were wondering if were they going to Washington Commanders were going to take possibly a step back because it was kind of people were saying surprising for them to enter the NFC Championship game and with on a rookie year with Jaden Daniels, him just catching fire, I would say, and like we see with one of those ways how it goes on with certain rookie quarterbacks, and they have these big year rookie seasons. As we saw with the Jets and Mark Jackson back in 2010. But that with the Jets leading the defense over there with Rex Ryan in them. But I mean, these rookie quarterbacks have been catching a lot more speed, I would say, nowadays. Like they're more ready to play than they were before. Like CJ Stroud, you could see Caleb Williams, him catching some players you would see they need like some someone to learn under. But majority of these rookies, as you see today, like they're just ready to go. And then like they're just hitting fire. They're just playing with fire like right away and just showcasing their talent. But it is also beneficial, I would say, to be underneath somebody as well, like as you've seen with Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. If I'm not mistaken, there's some other quarterbacks out there that were too. Brock Purdy did sit underneath Jimmy G with Trey Lance when he was drafted. He was just be in the fold, like they would say, like he would just be learning throughout that season. Then he got his chance in 2022 in Week 13 against the Dolphins. He was just in the room constantly asking questions. There were some things about that. So these rookies are pretty much catching up to speed now with much more differences that we see. And also, I would like to mention once again for a sponsor, for sale, AJ and Michelle Chand for real estate and loans. That's 916-549-2425. Please reach out to them once again at 916-549-2425 at ajanesh.chand at xbrealty.com. Sponsored by Crossover Sports Talk. Also, his license number would be 018-02444, and his broker license 018-78277. I'll mention in the banner below. Now, moving forward on more, I would say NFL talks, and NBA talks as we, go move forward. There was rumors going back to the NBA with Kevin Durant. There was the teams that were listed on Bleacher Report via Bleacher Report that were interested was, I can just pull it up over here, with Kevin Durant, possibly getting dealt or traded to. Um, there was some teams that in the mix. I would say, hold on, if I could pull it up over here so I could just mention to you guys. There was the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards did idolize Kevin Durant growing up. That was his favorite player. It would be something to him to reach out to, him to be interested playing it. The Minnesota Timberwolves were the 6th seed. They were the 3 seed last year, but they made it to the Western Conference Finals back-to-back seasons, and they're trying to look over that hump to get over to reach the NBA Finals or possibly potentially winning one. So, maybe Kevin Durant adding in that mix could possibly do that for them, even though he's quite a bit aging, but he's still a lethal scorer and can still get a bucket and impactful for teams. Anybody other than a scorer than Anthony Edwards would be on that team. They are a pretty deep team. There's also the Houston Rockets, as I think I mentioned in my previous shows, that they can give up. They have the assets, they got the money, the cap room to acquire him and make a potential run because they were lacking that star, I think, to close them out. That's what they struggled with against the Warriors. So if they get a go-to scorer like KD, they can be very, very dangerous and immediate championship contender, I would say, in the West. And then the San Antonio Spurs, like I mentioned them too before, with Wemby, pairing KD with Wemby, potentially Chris Paul still being there, mentoring him, and Svan Castle and Vassell and all that team over there. I know Greg Popovich, moved up in the front office, I would say. So it's pretty interesting, over there. It's a young team, but he can uplift them to make sure they're not just in the playoffs. I mean, the play-in, but reaching the playoffs in a tough, deep Western Conference. Um, and also, we do have the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are also a team that is obviously down up in Miami, the South Beach. They need a star out there. With Bam Adebayo, there's Tyler Hero. You got Duncan Robinson, Davion Mitchell of the worlds. So they got some assets to trade away and some picks. Pat Riley loves that Heat culture. And Eric Spoelstra. So KD going down there as a go bucket getter too can make the Heat just not only, I would say, that they were just in the play-in or in the playoffs. They can potentially be even higher up in that East. And then this gets me to that last team that was mentioned by Shams, Shams Charania. Once again, following him, he said the Knicks as well. The Knicks have trade interest in Kevin Durant as well. So the Knicks were linked with KD, I would say, about 5 or 6 years ago when KD was on his way out from the Golden State Warriors after that finals loss to the Raptors in 6 games. He did rupture his Achilles in that finals back in 2019. There were rumors of him going to there was the Nets. Him and Kevin Durant did eventually sign. Him and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving did eventually sign with the Brooklyn Nets, but the Knicks were obviously that people were thinking that the Knicks were going to be them, and then them getting the one pick to add Zion in as well. That was going to be like a dream come true for them. They didn't win the lottery, unfortunately. He went to New Orleans because of those reasons. But Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving people were thinking, like, the rumors were, they're going to the New York Knicks, they're going to the Garden, they're going in the Mecca. And eventually they didn't. They signed with the Brooklyn Nets, and I think there was some turmoil in the front office and the roster with the New York Knicks going on over there. So things are changed now. Obviously, in 5 years, the Knicks have been making the playoffs. They have got potentially a new head coach, on the way. There's a new head coach in Phoenix, so that's why Phoenix is technically heading in a different direction. So potentially Michael Malone going there and pairing KD over there. There's Giannis of the world is getting traded. So the Knicks are really trying to get back, to the NBA Finals, which they made the Eastern Conference after for the first time since 25 years, So this should be a really interesting offseason, man. Like, I'm really looking forward to seeing all of this. So once again, this ad sponsoring Your Taco Guy, Livermore's local family-owned taquiza catering, authentic Mexican food and top-tier service. You can call 925-339-5857 to book. Once again, that's 925-339-5857 to book. And then also, I wanted to mention another advertisement with TrailerProz, expert trailer repair and custom metal fabrication, reliable, mobile, built to last. Call 916-812-2513. Once again, that's 916-812-2513, and that's TrailerProz at gmail.com. For your trailer repairs and any welding, any custom metal fabrication you need done, please reach out to them. They're the best, I would say, in the business. All right, and I also wanted to mention Mr. AJ John's his license number, so I'll put that up in here in the ticker below, so you guys can reach out, to him and look for out your local news out in Sacramento and Elk Grove, California. So please reach out to them; they will help and assist you. And then also wanted to mention once again, this we will be having more and more and more guests on and more advertisements and sponsors as we keep going on. I did want to mention, I wanted to thank Shaquille Mumtaz and then also Sean Rutledge for being on my show for my first two guests. So I'm gonna be having more people come on to the show so they can get their thoughts. We can get their thoughts about what's going on in the sports world with the NBA, NFL, it could be the MLS, WNBA. I'm gonna be having with speaking with Zeena as well, so we'll be having some people on to get on here to explain their reasons and thoughts on what's going on in the NBA, NFL, and all the MLS, and what's potentially the World Cup next year. Super Bowl 60 at Levi Stadium here in Santa Clara in the Bay Area. So that's going to be pretty big. Super Bowl City was back here, I would say 10 years ago when the Denver Broncos and Carolina Panthers were playing. So that was pretty fun to go to. I went back 10 years ago. So it would be nice, we're going to be having tons and tons of guests, speaking more forward as the months go by and the days go by, when the NFL season comes. So this should be good. And then there's AJ and AJ John's license number and broker license once again. All right, guys, and then that's probably going to be doing with my show. You guys can please check it out moving forward. Once again, I'm Fazil Arshad, your host and founder. This is once again Crossover Sports Talk and Events. Thank you guys so much. We'll have more shows coming up in the future. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Have a great night. Thank you. Bye-bye.